Hello, I'm John.
And I'm Niko.
And we are Panther Aerospace. Today we will bring you
The complete history
of our space program from 2019 to now
and beyond.
So sit back, relax,
and enjoy
our complete history of Panther Aerospace. So Panther Aerospace had its roots stemming from before the winter of 2018 to 2019, when my father and I went to a Target store, coming across what would be Panther Aerospace's very first rocket, the start of a new beginning. It was built throughout March that year before it was sent to a small flying field for what would be the very first launch of the space program on April 14th, 2019. This small rocket flew about 300 feet into the midday spring skies before successfully returning to Earth and then launching again minutes later. This historic rocket was almost lost in a tree on its second launch, but was recovered. Then came a few more rockets, the Maxtrax, Amazon, Snapshot, and Helicat, the next rockets in line to embark on their maiden flights. Maxtrax was lost in a tree on its first flight, but the capsule was recovered. Amazon was flight tested on July 7th that year, flying alongside Snapshot for the first time 1 week later. The start of a new beginning was decommissioned after its 7th launch on July 14th as well. It landed on the roof of a building at the launch site used at the time. It was recovered as well and resides in Panther Aerospace's vault of retired rockets.
Snapshot would go on to fly 2 more times before exploding on its 3rd flight. The capsule was the only part recovered and was reused once on a new rocket, the Independence, on October 6, 2019. Helicat was flown for the first time in August, along with the Flip Flyer, the only rocket, destroyed on Launchapalooza 2 years later. The 2019 launch season ended with the maiden launches of the Stars and Stripes and the Independence. 22 launches, including the failed Snapshot launch attempt, were completed that year.
Before the year's end, on Christmas Eve, I was given Panther Aerospace's biggest rocket, the Saturn V, along with a model of Apollo 11's Eagle lunar module, which remains unbuilt to this day.
But there is something dark and mysterious, and somehow very small, lurking on the horizon in the following year.
2020 began with the creation of this very channel you are watching this video from. Panther Aerospace's channel was created on January 28, 2020, with its first video, Rocket Vlog 1, published on the 30th of that same month. Saturn V began construction on February 8th, with its engine mount being assembled and completed. That same engine mount would eventually bear the forces of the most powerful solid rocket motor tested by Panther Aerospace, the E30-4T.
Rocket Vlog 2 was published on February 13th. The video outlined plans from the 2020 launch season, as well as including a cinematic of the recent solar orbit launch. But it was only a month until the darkest foreseen since the last century. COVID-19 shut down multiple nations, including the United States, into lockdowns to curb the spread. Panther Aerospace was cut off from its video-making methods and its launches until after the lockdowns ended.
5 launches were done the day before lockdown started and were the first Panther Aerospace launches ever caught on camera. My guest speaker and friend here, Niko, launched his first rocket at the event. The videos were low quality and later published on YouTube. You can find them on ProGamer Niko's YouTube channel, which the links to the videos are found in the description. Panther Aerospace then resumed launches on Memorial Day that year, testing 3 rockets such as the newly finished Space Force rocket. The next launches were done on the 4th of July in 2020, and I'm truthfully telling you these were not done by fireworks. Rockets such as Space Force, Independence, and Stars and Stripes returned, but 2 new rockets, Crossfire ISX and Freedom embarked on their maiden flights. These launches were also caught on camera, but are on my channel instead.
Saturn V development was resumed on June 6th with the addition of vacuum wraps, detailed pieces of plastic which were sprayed onto the body of the rocket. Patriot and Black Brent II also were in development throughout the summer. Javelin was under construction, launched a week after the Saturn V launch.
There was one last launch event before the Saturn V, in which both the Space Force and Stars and Stripes got stuck in trees at the old launch site. That was on August 23, 2020. On July 16, 1969, America sent Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins to the moon on Apollo 11. Boosted by a Saturn V rocket, the astronauts made it there in 3 days. History was made when Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon on July 20th, 1969.
To celebrate that historic moment, more than 51 years later, Panther Aerospace launched its own replica of Apollo 11, launching on September 6, 2020. 4 rockets preceded it that day in chronological order. They were the Independence, Space Force rocket, followed by the Patriot, and the Black Brent II on their maiden flights.
Then came the big moment. The countdown was recited as flight preparations continued. The flight controller prepared to ignite the engine stored in the belly of the beast as these words were recited. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff of Apollo 11. The model version of the Saturn V did not start its engine until 0, all engines running, in order to accurately complete the countdown without the rocket leaving the pad early. The engine was so powerful that the Saturn V actually needed a new pad to launch from.
The Saturn V successfully descended in 2 halves after the liftoff. The booster was brought down under 2 24-inch parachutes, while the upper half was brought down under 1 18-inch parachute. As the rockets were being cleaned up, my friend John here gave a speech about the launch. Before the historic photographs were taken.
Saturn V was then displayed at the Panther Aerospace party 1 week later. 5 more launches were done the day after. At the party, I was given 2 new rockets. The first Arcturus, and a new missile, the Bullpup. Arcturus was built throughout late September that year, flying on its maiden launch on October 3, 2020. Funny enough, its 5th launch was done exactly 1 year later on that same day.
Stars and Stripes and the Space Force rocket were recovered from the trees late last year and were rebuilt. 17 launches were achieved in 2020. Following the Saturn V launch. The last launch of 2020 was achieved with the launch of the Black Brent II on November 7th.
As yet another dark winter set in, I received 2 new rockets, the Mongoose and Saturn 1B, the successor to the legendary Saturn V, to be used in a new event that I planned, the Launchapalooza.
But during this dark winter, there was a flicker of hope. A cure for the pandemic. The vaccine was developed. Combined with this new Launchapalooza plan, 2020 finally gave way to the new year of 2021. Much better than those years that came before.
The first Panther-related rocket activity of 2021 started with the construction of the Bullpup. Construction of it was delayed from 2020 until after New Year's for unspecified reasons. I also attended virtual astronomy club meetings at the time, hosting a series of creative presentations titled Voyage to the Planet.
The first launch of 2021 launch season began on March 7th this year, along with 2 other rockets. It was a rocky start, however, as 2 rockets, the Patriot and Bullpup, had one fin ripped from each of their bodies after landing. Bullpup had an adverse event known as a misfire after ignition.
About 1 month later, on April 14, 2021, PantherCon occurred on an astronomy club meet outlining the possible plans for the rest of 2021, including directly addressing the Launchapalooza. As 2021 went on, events with 10 launches each were attempted. The first one of these happened on May 15th. Only half of those launches were caught on camera. The footage can be found on my YouTube channel. Panther Aerospace then achieved important milestones with the development of the Saturn 1B. On May 7th, the fin can was attached to the fuel tank section of the booster, while on the 29th of that same month, the upper body was attached to the tank.
Throughout the first week of June, Panther Aerospace iconic transporter cart was assembled. 3 Launchapalooza dress rehearsals were conducted using the cart, testing out load configurations and test flying new rockets for the big day.
The first dress rehearsal tested the Mongoose rocket in single-stage configuration for the first time to see if it would work for its one and only multi-stage flight. The second dress rehearsal brought the 100th mission to space with the Falcon 9, which did a belly flop like a starship on the way down. 8 other rockets were launched during that dress rehearsal. There were issues with the newly minted Falcon 9, which was a repaint of the Helicat, and the Bullpup, once plagued with failure. A third dress rehearsal had to be done, with Falcon 9 passing and Bullpup having another misfire.
After several weather-related delays, Panther Aerospace was go for Launchapalooza on the morning of July 24, 2021. The night before, Panther Aerospace prepared 16 rockets for flight, both big and small, including the Saturn 1B. The transporter cart was brought to the flying field, uploaded, and the launches began with the Javelin.
Launches 2 and 3 were misfires. The second launch involved Flip Flyer, which was destroyed on impact. Launch 3 involving Bullpup did not result in destruction, but was nevertheless a misfire. All launches after that were successful and did not result in any misfires. There were 2 halves to the event. For the most part, the first half involved smaller, lower-flying rockets and ended after the 9th launch, which was the Freedom. The second half started with the Falcon 9, followed by Independence and Patriot.
Then came the high flyers, Arcturus, followed by the Black Brent 2, Mongoose, and then Saturn 1B were the highest. And penultimate launches of Launchapalooza, Arcturus launched on an E-class engine for the first time, while Black Brent 2 completed the highest successful catch attempt in Panther Aerospace history.
Mongoose launched again, this time on 2 stages. Once the lower stage ignited, the rocket appeared to leave one trail of smoke before stage separation. Then a big puff came out of the rocket, and it left another smoke trail before cutting off and reaching an apogee of 1,600 feet. The parachute deployed, and Mongoose returned to Earth, but the booster stage suffered irreparable damage after separation. Saturn 1B was launched, and although it looked like it was going to crash, both halves had successful parachute deployments and returned to Earth intact. Launchapalooza ended with the reputation of being Panther Aerospace's biggest event to date. You can see the full Launchapalooza movie on Panther Aerospace's channel in the description.
After Launchapalooza, Panther Aerospace flight tested 2 rockets to see if they would work after the event. The rockets, Javelin and Mongoose, passed testing and moved on to the other events. 2 new rockets, Supershot and the Donkey Konker, were being constructed throughout the month of August. For the upcoming Donkey Kong High Flyer event, on September 4th, both new rockets were lost on their maiden launch, but for DK, it was intended. 8 other rockets flew during the event, and a Black Brant launch and possible plane flight were scrubbed due to winds later in the day.
Panther Aerospace then took a break from launching for a few weeks to host another Panther Aerospace party on September 18th. Inspiration 150 occurred on the 25th with 11 launches and a new rocket, the Outlaw. The 150th mission also launched again on the Falcon 9. ProGamer Niko managed to capture footage of a rocket transiting the sun on its way down during the event. Launch-A-Ween on October 3rd was the last event of the 2021 launch season. There were 10 launches, with the Outlaw being launched a second time. In the end, Arcturus embarked on its 5th launch, splashing down in a pond near the launch site. A plane was seen transiting the sun while Arcturus was being recorded. The 3rd rocket vlog was published on October 19th, being the first of its kind to be published in 20 months.
And that is the complete history of Panther Aerospace. For now, thank you for watching the holiday special, and
we'll be back with another special video next year. See you at the next launches. This is Panther Aerospace signing out.